the beginning of changing those coping mechanisms, coping strategies, is seeing them for what they are and going, there's logic here. My adult irrational behavior has good reasons. There's a good reason why I'm behaving irrationally. I just can't see it. And you won't see it if you start off by going, it's wrong. Hello friends, John Dalton here, Further Emergence podcast, where we go into love, consciousness and the mystery. In this episode we're going into the power of silence, refusing to surrender to darkness, surviving childhood, and the power of love. Now let's have a look at some of the memes in the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first one is very simple. It says, upgrade your life in silence. Upgrade your life in silence. What does that even mean? But it speaks to me because I certainly have upgraded my life in silence. And it points towards meditation, or certainly the kind of meditation that I do. But even if you don't do the kind of meditation I do, you can gain a lot from silence. It's something we don't like. We don't like silence. Not so much peace and quiet or the beautiful silence. It's not really silent in a forest, but I'm in a forest right now. It's quiet. The silence that we don't like, though, is the inner silence. On the meditation training that I do, I liken it to when you close your eyes and you turn off the pictures, you turn off the sound, you go into the silence, the inner silence. It's like suddenly realizing that you're trapped in an elevator with crazy people because you can't avoid your thinking. And when you become silent, it's all you can hear. All you can hear is your thinking. And it's very distressing because you can sort of hear how out of control it is and how it just bounces and hops from one thing to another through chains of association. You just get one thing after another, after another, after another. And yeah, you can see why we do all the things to distract ourselves from it. But it's so important. How are you going to get anywhere in consciousness if you can't begin to approach silence? Because it's only through approaching silence that you can your consciousness begins to speed up so that you can get a little bit ahead of the thinking. You can begin to see yourself, the beginnings of a reaction, rather than, you're suddenly taken over. And that requires, perseverance. Perseverance in silence. Meditation is a little bit like the old thing of throwing an orange pip into a glass of water. You throw it in, nothing happens. The surface of the water, tension of the water doesn't even break. So then you throw another one in. Doesn't seem like it makes any difference. Throw another one in. Doesn't make any difference. That's what meditation feels like. Because when you hear about meditation first, it's like, oh yeah, that sounds so cool. Everyone goes on about meditation like it's this great thing. I should do that. If I did that, maybe I would be a bit calmer. Maybe I'd be a bit less anxious. Maybe I'd be a bit, whatever, fill in the blank. And your mind it's a new thing for your mind to chew on. So your mind is all excited about it. It's like, yeah, great, meditation, let's do that. And it imagines how you will look being a meditator. It imagines how you'll be able to drop it into conversation. Oh yeah, I meditate. Yeah, I meditate quite regularly. I meditated for 16 hours straight one time, or whatever. You know the way our minds go. But then you actually start to do it. First couple of times it's interesting, but after that, my mind is like, oh God, not this again. It's so boring. It's so boring. And it doesn't do anything. I'm not calm. In fact, I feel less calm. I'm more anxious. This is not all kinds of meditation, but certainly the way I meditate. because you feel more anxious because you're more conscious of your anxiety. You can feel it more. So you, instead of feeling calmer and being all cool, you sort of feel a bit neurotic and feel like, oh my God, I'm so anxious all the time. I never noticed before I started meditating. So from your mind's point of view, it's like, what am I doing this for? I thought I'd meditate a couple of times, maybe a week, and I'd immediately start to get all zen-like and cool and be all calm. And that hasn't happened at all. But it's this thing of like, it's not a one-time thing. It's the repeated over and over, in the meditation itself, it's the repeated stopping of the mind. And then in the bigger arc of your life, it's the fact that you meditate every couple of hours, or you meditate in the morning and the evening, and you've been doing it for weeks, maybe you've been doing it for years. That accumulates. Because the orange pips, you keep throwing them in, eventually there'll be very little water left in the glass, and there'll be nothing but orange pips in the glass. And that's the way it is with meditation. My mind still kind of goes, particularly if I meditate, in the middle of the day, or one of the exercises on the meditation training is to have a little alarm that goes off every hour and 15 minutes, every hour and a half, whatever you set up yourself. If you can meditate, great, but if not, that it's not so much you have to meditate when the alarm goes off, it's to pause. And if I am in the middle of doing something that I consider, or my mind considers to be very important, if I kind of go, okay, I think I'm going to meditate now, my mind will be like, what, couldn't we wait till the end? But what about this very important email I need to finish? What about this really important thing? I just want to get to the end of this episode of my show, or whatever. It never kind of goes, oh yeah, great, let's go into the mystery, that'll be beautiful. Let's go into the silence. And that doesn't happen, even still. And I've been meditating for many, many years. Still doesn't like it. And often, like when people go through the meditation training, they're like, I might talk to them a while later, and they go, I still find it difficult. I'm like, yeah, me too. Because you're going against the tide. Like, part of the illusion of existence, our mind is very attached to it, and it keeps it going through this, in a way, our minds are kind of going, wow, look at that other thing, look at this, whether it's, wow, look at the gas bill that we haven't paid, look at that relationship that we totally destroyed through, our own bad behavior, look at that person who slighted us, or look at that lovely car, I wish I had that car, So our mind is all the time darting out into existence, and it sort of helps it keep it all believable. So when you sit down and you turn off the vision, you close your eyes, and all you've got is this, your mind starting to throw up images inside and commentary, and then you're consciously turning that off, it'd be like wearing a virtual reality pair of goggles and closing your eyes, or it going dark, and all you can see is the vague reflection of your eyelids on the screens. That's a bit what like meditation is. And it's be really boring in comparison. So it's very nice to read a little meme that says upgrade your life in silence and go, yeah, upgrade my life in silence. The reality of doing that is difficult, but it is true. Your life does get upgraded. And the thing that I always came back to, and that kind of propelled me forward, was this is temporary. Where I am is temporary, and it's going to be over a lot quicker than I think. And while it's nice to drive new cars and have nice things, I can't bring any of them with me. And there's a slim possibility that whatever consciousness I gain on the inside, whatever insight I gain on the inside, might be able to bring that with me, or that might be of use, or it feels a bit more real than all this external stuff. So I'm going to focus on that. And I have, deep dreamless sleep as a sort of a barometer, or a sort of way of thinking, I get a little bit of feedback of, I go into deep dreamless sleep. I've got nothing, no body, no car, no house, no personality, no memories, nothing. And I don't know whether I go somewhere. I'm guessing that thinking of it in terms of thinking of the mystery in terms of location and going and all that sort of stuff is probably not accurate. So I'm getting distracted by the bees, sorry. So I go into this place or whatever, and I don't know about what happens where I go in the mystery, but I do know what happens as I come back. And when I return, I'm refreshed. Now, that could be just a simple physiological thing, could be just a bodily thing. I don't think so, though. It feels, my sense is that where I go to in deep dreamless sleep, what I call the mystery, because I don't know what else to call it, that is nourishing. And that in some way, it often feels to me like the old doors they used to have into the kitchen in a restaurant. One door in only and one door out only. And it's like as I go into the mystery in deep dreamless sleep, I think that I may remember everything, but as I come back out, I forget everything again. So that's why I can never remember what happens in the mystery. It seems to be like it's part of the deal here. I could be just making all that up though, but I have a sense of it. Main thing is I know I'm refreshed when I come back, and it helps me kind of go, yeah, so maybe all this inner work, all this consciousness work is going towards something. So yeah, it is true. Upgrade your life in silence. And there's a quote from somebody who's saying, all the world's problems could be solved if a man could sit in the room on his own for 15 minutes and be at peace. I don't know if that's true, but it's it's got a powerful way of describing it, isn't it? So yeah, I highly recommend, if you're interested in consciousness, and I'm guessing you are because you listen to me, then yeah, meditating. And then there are different types of meditating. If you want to just be for stress or that, or just become a little bit calmer, then Headspace and all those other kind of ones, they're great. If you want to meditate with the intention of increasing your consciousness, then do my meditation. It's on the website. Highly recommend it. 4-week course. You can go from never doing any meditation to being equipped to continue on deeper and deeper into your meditation. And then there's always the space for the mystery that I do every Monday. I do 2 sessions on Monday, and that's a chance to meditate together. That's if you're interested in it for consciousness. So yeah, upgrade your life in silence. Highly recommend it. The next one is by John Mark Green, and it says, "You are not the darkness you endured. You are the light that refused to surrender." The thing about enduring darkness, particularly if it's childhood darkness, or if you encounter a lot of darkness when you're a child, we, as children, one of the ways we survive is we take everything on board as it's our fault. And that might seem like, oh, why do we do that? And it's a great survival strategy, because if you are in the care of people that are, that have so many issues, or that they're covered by their own unconsciousness so much that they're abusive to you, they're cruel to you, they're doing terrible things to you. If you're like 1 year old or 6 months old and you realize, you kind of go, I just did this thing and I was smacked, or something was withheld from me, or whatever. And you go, so I've got 2 options here. These people who are in charge of me, who are responsible for taking care of me, who are responsible for feeding me and loving me, both of which I need for survival, they're kind of crazy. That's option one. They're the problem. That's option one. Option two is it's my fault, I did something. So option one, they are crazy. That means I am at the mercy of crazy people. In fact, all these bigger people, grown-ups, all seem a bit nutty. They all seem like they've got something going on. And I'm reliant on them. I can't handle that because I can't do anything about them. And the horror of facing that fact that I am being taken care of by people whose issues and whose unconsciousness means that any moment they could destroy me. That's way too much for a little baby brain, little kid brain. Whereas if we go for option B, I did something. The flaw is with me. That is hard to face, hard to deal with, but it's just me. It's just me and me. And I can bend myself into whatever shape I need to stop causing them to react in the way that they're doing. So we start to develop all these elaborate compensation mechanisms so that we don't trigger the people who take care of us. So if we've been exposed to a lot of darkness as a kid, and you don't have to be exposed to a lot of darkness. Kids, we do this just generally. We never think it's our parents. We always think it's us because it's a better safety strategy, better survival strategy. But if you've been exposed to a lot of darkness, it's very easy to feel like you're the darkness, that the darkness is you, that you're at fault. So the hard and the difficult thing to come to is to realize that you're not the darkness that covered you. You're the light, using the dark and light thing. You're the light that was unquenchable, that was uncoverable, that couldn't be extinguished. That you were the light that couldn't be extinguished, even though you were covered by a lot of darkness. That sounds lovely, doesn't it? That sounds like, oh, well, that'd be great, wouldn't it? That'd be like a hallelujah moment. It's, in my experience, it's not. It's very hard to come to, and you have to do a lot of work to de-escalate the survival mechanism, because if you understand how you arrived at the sense of I'm the darkness is in me, there's just something wrong with me, then those kind of strong beliefs are put in place to keep you alive. So they are not just going to change because you're tired of feeling bad about yourself. They require a lot of gentle, loving, understanding, consciousness being brought to them to begin to get them to change. But it's a good place to start. This recognition that you're not the darkness that covered you, you're the light that refused to be extinguished. And that's a beautiful thing. The next one says, it's headlined with things your inner child might need to hear. And then what your inner child might need to hear is, your coping mechanisms were brilliant adaptations to your environment that helped you survive, and it's safe to let them go now. This is kind of similar. It's a kind of another way of saying the same thing. The thing to get in this, though, is that your adaptations, your survival adaptations, are brilliant. That's a hard thing to accept when you're the adult playing out of those early adaptations look like sabotage. It's very hard to get to see how these are brilliant adaptations that I needed to survive. But you almost have to see it in that way, because if you don't, you'll just be at war with yourself. You will be trying to beat yourself into being something that you're not. And continuing to reinforce this idea of that there's something wrong with you and that you need to do something to correct it, which is a perpetuation of what you set up when you were a kid. We set up these things because we can't face that their parents are actually the problem. Like if you have a parent that's beating you, like that's an extreme, but if you have a parent that's beating you, like as an adult now, you can kind of go, what sort of person would do that, Like for example, my father slapped me in the face one time when I was probably 6, out of nowhere, right? He'd never hit me before that I could remember. I'd seen him hitting my siblings because, I grew up in the 60s. That's what people did. They hit their kids. It wasn't a big deal. Everybody hit kids back then. Teachers, random strangers could do it, if they had just cause kind of thing. So anyway, I had done something without, and I'd angered my father without realizing it. And he called me out and said, did you do this thing? And the way he said it, I knew I sensed I could be in trouble here. So the way he phrased it, it was like being in court and being asked a yes/no answer and not giving a yes/no answer. So he kind of said, did you do A, B, and C? And I went, well, no, I did E, F, and G or something like that. Anyway, out of nowhere, he just, bam, right across the face, right? Now, at the time, I think even at the time I thought, well, that's uncalled for. Steady on. I mean, I was crying immediately, but mostly I was shocked, Now, as an adult, I can kind of go, my father, a grown man hitting a 6-year-old child like that in the face, that says a lot more about him than it does about me. But I wasn't like that. As a kid, I was like, wow, I've done something really wrong. I've done something really wrong. I've really screwed up here. It's me. It's not him. Well, part of me was going, yeah, that's... So to kind of, if I probably did develop all sorts of coping strategies to never get hit again. And I don't think I ever did get hit again. But then, he died a couple of years later anyway. The beginning of changing those coping mechanisms, coping strategies, is seeing them for what they are and going, there's logic here. My adult irrational behavior has good reasons. There's a good reason why I'm behaving irrationally. I just can't see it. And you won't see it if you start off by going, it's wrong. You'll just perpetuate this thing of there's something wrong with me. I'm just, you're kind of doing it to yourself then. You're like, oh no, there's something wrong with me and I'm just screwing up here all the time. So that's the first thing, to recognize they're brilliant. These survival mechanisms are brilliant. And they're brilliant because you survived, you're still here. And the next thing is I can let go of them. Now that's not that easy to do. I know in this meme it sort of goes, oh, and then just let go of them. It's not that easy. But it starts with recognizing them, that these are brilliant brilliant strategies that I needed to survive. And how do I get them down? They're very similar to, in the 80s and 90s, they were discovering Japanese soldiers who'd been stuck on Pacific Islands and they didn't know the war was over. And anyone who tried to tell them that was viewed as an enemy and got shot at. And the only way they could get them to accept it was to go and find their original commanding officer and get them to go, yeah, the war's over. And it's a little bit like that. We program these things into ourselves to survive. So they are charged with life and death energy. It's almost like we take a part of ourselves, put it off to one side. Now you make sure I'm never creative again. I'm never adventurous again. I'm never whatever. And You've got full autonomy. Just make sure I never make this mistake again. And then we forget about it and we grow up, you know. And this thing is still going. So if we suddenly, you know, if we develop agoraphobia, we can't leave the house, or we kind of go, oh, that's terrible, it's really messing up it's really cramping my style here. I really want to go and travel the world, but I'm terrified every time I do anything. Just going, oh, well, you know, oh, I've discovered I have a mechanism that prohibits me from being adventurous. Well, I'm just going to stop that. I'm just going to let that go. It doesn't work, because that part of you is like, it's not been, you can't de-escalate it. You can't you know, it's like you have to get the original commanding officer back. And the original commanding officer was life and death, you know. So it requires a lot of energy, the same kind of energy that it was charged with. That's why people go through catharsis, you know, they change when they go through catharsis. And that's because it's a big deal, you know. There's a huge amount of energy at those times. I'm not saying you need to go through catharsis. I'm just saying that's like an example of how it unlocks, you know. What I have found, a more gentle way of doing that is to recognize that it's trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you alive. Or to recognize that and to begin to get into a dialogue with it. So it's almost like you can't find the original officer to rescind the orders. So you have to kind of get it, you know, put an armchair on the beach on the Pacific Island and go, yeah, I understand you don't trust me, but let's talk anyway. Because the thing is, these parts of us have been isolated for a long time. And what I've found is they like to talk and they like to be heard. Because what they're used to from you is being made wrong and being told to shut up. You know, like, so let's say you have borderline agoraphobia, but you want to go on holiday. As you get closer to the holiday, that part of you that's been told to keep you alive will be going, danger! We're in grave danger. Something terrible is going to happen if we leave the house. We can't be adventurous. Now, if you booked the holiday and paid for it, and you find yourself getting more and more anxious, you don't want to hear that voice. You want to go, shut up. Stop with the anxiety. I want to enjoy my holiday. But it doesn't hear that. And it's just used to you denying it and suppressing it. So if you recognize that it's helpful and that it's trying to keep you alive, and then you don't have an agenda, you're not trying to do it so you can go on holidays, but you're going, tell me all about it. Slowly it starts to come out of the forest. Slowly it creeps forward and it starts to tell you its sad, pathetic story. And you have to be okay with hearing it, you know, and listening to it. And then you have to develop a relationship with it, this part of you, you know. Like we talk about the inner child. In my experience, there isn't inner child. It is not singular. There are many freeze-framed parts of us inside with different agendas, different programming, and it's a process of befriending them and helping them to come to you when they're triggered rather than take you over, which is what happens. They take you over. And you have to, like any friendship or any relationship, it's not just about talk. You know, it's not like, oh yeah, tell me all about it. It's about, what can I do? What can I do to make it easier? And they might say, well, I want a bowl of ice cream, or I want you to buy me a teddy bear, or I want you to read me a story, or I want whatever. And for me, anyway, it's like, if it doesn't make any difference, like, I mean, I don't do dangerous things and I don't do things that are damaging to me. But if it doesn't make much difference, I'll do it. And I'll do it because I want to help foster the relationship. I want them to trust me. I much rather them to come to me and say I'm anxious or I'm scared or I'm vengeful or I'm angry or whatever, than to be taken over by them, which is what they do, don't they? And then you kind of go, oh, why did I say that to that person? Why did I snap like that? Why did I snap at that person? Or why did I thought I was going to the party and then suddenly I found myself back at home. How did that happen? And it's like, well, that's because they took you over, because it was too triggering for them. It's too, I don't really like that word triggering. It's a bit buzzwordy, but you know, it was too confronting. So through getting a relationship with them, making friends with them, hearing what their voice, and because really what's really happening when you do that is you're filling in the gaps in your parenting. It's another way of thinking of it, but it can be thinking of it like that can be a bit challenging. But that is what's happening. You're parenting yourself. You're parenting the parts of you that didn't get parented, and you're not making them wrong. You're encouraging them to tell you what the problem was and is, and to begin to demonstrate to them. Because you can get into negotiation with them then. When you've began to get their trust, then let's say you want to go on a little trip. You can go, well, you know, we went on the trip, we got through it. Yes, you were anxious, but here we are and we survived, we lived through it. So maybe we're not in as much danger as we feel when we are a little bit adventurous. So it's like a process of gathering evidence that is the balance or the counter or the opposite of the evidence that you got when you were a kid of I mustn't be adventurous or it's going to be catastrophic for me. And you're sort of building up a body of evidence of doing the thing that it sort of felt like, oh no, we can't never do that. If we do that, we'll be destroyed. So little by little. So yeah, it's not an easy, just let them go. You can try, but in my experience, they don't listen. You know, that's just you flapping your gums. You could be saying you like them or you don't like them. Doesn't work. It seems like slow negotiation and trust building. And it's not so like you're trying to unify the parts or you're trying to get rid of them or disappear them or anything like that. It's in terms of consciousness, it's like accepting that all parts of you on the inside are valid, even though some parts are more conscious than others. All parts have a place and there's no hierarchy inside, and that you want all parts to move forward in consciousness. That's the thing to aim for. The last one is a quote from Julian of Norwich, and it says, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, for there is a force of love moving through the universe that holds us fast and will never let us go." It's very easy to feel this in nature, that there is something beautiful and loving, holding the whole thing together. It's too beautiful to be random, isn't it? Like when you look around and just see how it all fits together. And that's like without having any knowledge about how it fits together. As soon as you begin to study biology and, you know, even just you take our bodies and how, you know, the more you discover about our bodies, the more you discover how amazing they are, you know. Nature, trees, rivers, little animals, how it all fits together. It's like a bigger kind of symbol of that there's something lovely holding it all together. Now I know nature can look cruel sometimes, particularly if, you know, fluffy bunnies getting eaten and lambs and all that kind of thing. Nature can seem very cruel. But that, I don't understand that bit myself. I don't understand why it has to be like that. But just the, it's not, that doesn't happen that much. But just the, it's hard to be in nature and to feel like it's random, that it just kind of happened. It is, you get this feeling of like there's a harmony here. There's something holding all this together. There's some, I won't say benevolent. I mean, you can't really feel like it's benevolent. That's kind of anthropomorphizing it a little bit. To me, it's more like there's a something here that's not specific like me. It's not like, you know, a person holding it all together, but there's a sort of a field or there's a coherence, there's a harmony to the way it all fits together. And that's described in different ways. Like in this meme, it's like described of a force of love, which is not a great description, I don't think, because love is not love is a power as far as I can see it, not a force. But anyway, old Julian of Norwich wrote this a long time ago, so we'll give them a break. But just even being in nature, but even you can, like, we kind of think, oh well, cities are not nature, but of course they are. You know, they're just our nature externalized. You know, we like looking at an anthill and the workings of, and you know, what goes on inside the ant and go, well, that's not natural. You know, that's ant-made. So our cities are human-made, but they're still an expression of nature, our nature. And even within those, there's a harmony. You know, like there are forces that would like you to think that, you know, our base nature is we'll just, you know, given half a chance, we'll destroy each other and, you know, dog eat dog and all that kind of thing, which is not true. You know, like if you look into any of, who's he, Rutger Bregman's books, he's done all the research and done all the collation, whatever. And, you know, left to their own devices, human beings are naturally cooperative and kind. It's our nature. So there's that harmony again expressing itself, that power of love, love's too loaded, words don't really help, but it's there, and we notice it more in nature because people are distracting. So when we're in nature, we all calm down a bit and the shoulders drop. And I mean, not everybody. Some people find nature a bit more anxiety-inducing. But generally speaking, most people, even just seeing this much green around you, is soothing. And I think what is soothing about it is we kind of feel it. You know, it's close to the surface. We can feel this unifying, harmonious field. It's a bit easier. I find it a bit easier to feel in nature anyway. But this idea of all is well, all will be well, and that it'll be well because there is this coherence, a coherent field holding it all together, you know. That's beautiful and very worth remembering. All right, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.